Welcome to College Knowledge, Learning Allies podcast for college students who are blind or visually impaired. This show brings together three core elements of Learning Allies College Success Program: mentors, resources, and community. I am your host for today, Rachel Greider. Health, while important anytime, is especially critical now. Our next two episodes will focus on maintaining and improving your health as a person with a visual impairment. Our physical and mental health are so crucial, but at times we can overlook them for a variety of reasons. I will be moderating our first episode, a discussion of physical health. Today, we'll speak with three mentors who have made physical health one of their top priorities. Kinsey Lynch works in business and marketing. He is also a long-distance runner. Stephanie Zundel is a school counselor by day, and in her spare time, she maintains her running and cycling. Currently, she's training with ambitions to be part of a Paralympic cycling team in 2021. Lily Asadulina is a yogi and massage therapist. So we will begin with Kinsey. Kinsey, what led you to a love of running?
Thank you, Rachel. It's a pleasure to be here. My love of running started actually prior to my running about 12 years ago now, give or take. I was a wrestler in middle school, believe it or not. That's how long I've been doing it. I switched to running because I didn't want to do as much of a contact sport. So I started out doing middle school track and eventually progressed up to high school cross country. I'm the kind of person that I don't like to be told what I'm unable to do. While I was in high school cross country, I was told that my visual impairment would provide a liability to myself and the school, as cross country takes place on a lot of uneven surfaces. You may run through the woods, so things like roots, twigs, leaves, sticks, things like that could prohibit a safe environment for me to run in. I worked to change that for both my conference and, just in general. And after, participating in the practices and making it clear to my school and to my athletic conference that I wasn't going to stop running, I was actually allowed to maintain on the team. I can remember my very first race to this day. They put me at the back of the pack. I finished 51st out of 50 in about 35 minutes. And from that point on, I was hooked. So I started from going to do 5Ks, barely being able to finish, to I've done 3 marathons. I've done Philadelphia Marathon, Chicago, and New York. And I've run all over the country with a group called Achilles International, which provides guides for athletes with physical or other impairments. And through them, I've been able to really travel the country, and it's been, an amazing experience. My goal at some point is to do Boston, and I'd like to do London, Berlin, and Tokyo marathons in the not too distant future, COVID notwithstanding.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love it. So, like Kinsey, Stephanie is also really into running. Stephanie, could you talk about that and also your journey towards working as a cyclist for the Paralympics?
Absolutely. So similar to Kinsey, my running career started off with Achilles International. At the time, I was living in Nashville, Tennessee for college and grad school. So I joined the Nashville chapter. So I was running. I started out doing my first half marathon because my roommates at the time actually signed up for a half marathon, and I thought they were completely crazy. But since I always loved athletics, I did not want to be the one who didn't run the half marathon. So I put myself up to the challenge, and I signed up for the half marathon, and I started running with my roommates. Probably halfway through training for that half marathon, because of college life and lots of homework and different class schedules, we weren't able to train a ton. And I was getting pretty worried since I didn't feel like I was prepared enough. So basically at that point, it was around the same time as the NFB, or the National Federation of the Blind, convention for the state of Tennessee. So I was at the convention, and my roommate there told me about Achilles International Nashville. And she told me that it was a running organization for people with disabilities. And if you were blind or visually impaired, they would provide you with a volunteer guide. And I thought that was awesome. So I had her connect me with the president of the Nashville chapter. And, you know, once I was connected with her, I started doing 2 running sessions each week. And it was great because it was consistent practice. And then, you know, I would continue to run here and there with my roommates if it fit into our schedules. But it made me feel pretty confident because I was getting that consistent training in. And, you know, I ran my first half marathon. I am not going to lie. It was awful. At that time, I never did long distance running at all. Before that, my athletic background was in karate and boxing, actually. I have my junior and senior black belt. Yeah, I have my junior and senior black belt in White Tiger Kempo, and I did boxing. So I did those 2 sports from the age of 10 until I went to college. So running at that point was something new, but it was something that I wanted to get started in because a lot of students at Vanderbilt in Nashville did a lot of running. So I kind of wanted to join that group. It seemed like a really great community. So I joined Achilles. Like I said, I ran that first half marathon. It was pretty terrible, but I was proud of myself for doing it. I did not think I was going to continue running. I thought I was just going to stick to boxing. But then the president of the Achilles chapter asked me to run a half marathon in Disney World, and I love Disney. So I told her yes, because I got a free Disney trip. Because I was getting a free Disney trip, I was like, all right, 1 more half marathon, I can do that. So I trained for that half marathon, and halfway through training for that half marathon, it finally clicked, and I got what people call the runner's high. So at that point, I realized that, wow, if I don't pay attention to how much longer I have to run, and I just let myself be in the moment, it is so stress relieving, and it just, you know, erases that anxiety. So I started loving to run. And I really did that to kind of release that anxiety and that stress. And then while I was still training with Achilles, I ended up running multiple half marathons, 5Ks, 10Ks. And then I ran 2 Boston marathons, a New York City marathon, and the California International Marathon, which is in Sacramento, California. And then getting into my cycling. So basically through Achilles, I met a guy who ran the tandem cycling night at the Tennessee School for the Blind. And he was kind of just talking that he puts on each year for tandem cycling, and how he runs a nightly session on Tuesdays for about 2 hours for tandem cyclists at the School for the Blind, but community members can also join. And I was like, oh man, I always wanted to try tandem cycling. So I gave it a shot. I always did spin classes just for fun at Vanderbilt, kind of just at the rec center for exercise here and there, kind of just as cross training when I was running. So I tried out tandem cycling, and I fell in love with it. And the main organization that gave volunteers for the Tennessee School for the Blind's program was the Harpeth River Bike Club. And previously, before I joined that bike club, there was a lady named Pam Fernandez, and she's a Paralympian. And they connected with me to her. And through that, I got to attend some training programs at the Olympic Training Center. And that's kind of when everything fell into place. I joined that camp. I realized that I had a lot of potential in cycling. I still love running, but I realized I was much more naturally talented. So I did a little bit of road cycling, and now I currently do track cycling on the tandem. And just recently in February, we made it to the Team USA for World Championships. And the pilot is the person on the front of the bike, and the stoker is the person who's blind or visually impaired on the back of the bike. So my pilot and I made it to World Championships with Team USA in Milton, Canada in February. And We took home the bronze medal, and we were the first
Wow.
American tandem, male or female, to ever medal in the sprints. So I'm hoping to make it to the Paralympics for track cycling this upcoming year.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. So I wanted to switch gears a little to a different type of physical health. Lily, can you tell us a little about your relationship with physical fitness and how you were inspired to help other people on a journey toward better health?
Thank you, Rachel. So my journey with physical health started back in high school. I was a competitive swimmer and competitive track runner, actually sprinter. Although I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of running. I basically joined because I wanted to stay in shape. However, I really love swimming. I continued my journey with swimming when I moved to Denver, Colorado. After I graduated high school, I joined a master swim team. And then I met a personal trainer that was offering me sessions for really cheap price. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to start working out. And then he would really help me to get my body in shape, and also
Nice.
help me with my nutrition. He would encourage me to eat healthier. So I decided I really wasn't into the competitive aspect of sports and physical health. I'm more into staying in shape and helping others become in shape. So after my personal training sessions, I also joined an adaptive fitness program in college, and that personal trainer also would help me along, work out and pump that iron with those weights and all that, do some cardio, and we really got into working out outside. So that was really cool. She would make me go up and down stairs and use like brick walls to do push-ups and stuff like that. So that was pretty neat. So then after all the personal training and also taking integrative healthcare classes in college, so we learned about yoga and meditation and how it's really important to put healthy food into our body because we are what we eat. I decided I really want to help others to be able to be healthy. Pretty much I got myself into shape and started eating healthy. And then I started helping students who had other disabilities start getting on a better plan of eating healthier, exercising, and all of that. It wouldn't be a thing that I would do regularly, but from time to time, I would meet with different students and basically encourage them to do different exercises, or I would invite them to different events that I was planning to go exercise at. Like, I joined this club called Adaptive Adventures, and they do a lot of tandem biking and running and dragon boat racing, all kinds of stuff, rock climbing. So I would do that. And as I started inviting people, they would come with me to these events and we would work out together, and we would just go on hikes on our own as well.
Nice.
So yeah, that was really neat out in Colorado. And then I moved back to Pennsylvania, and I kind of fell out of step with working out as much, but I continued to eat healthy. So this past year, as the pandemic began, this one organization asked me if I would run fitness classes over Zoom. I would come up with different workouts for everyone to do, and we would work out twice a week for an hour. So I would help people of all types of workout levels and ages, and we would do a workout together. And at first I found it kind of overwhelming, and I was like, what am I doing? I've never taught any fitness classes before. But then towards the middle of it, I started enjoying it, and I started coming up with all these different fitness plans. And so, yes, and then besides that, it was mentioned earlier that I do yoga. So I'm not an experienced yoga instructor, and I'm not a certified yoga instructor, but I did lead some yoga classes, just beginner yoga classes, because I did take one introductory to yoga in college, Yoga Hatha 1, it's called. So I was able to lead some classes. For Learning Ally, I've also done a couple of yoga sessions on our health and wellness meetups. So that's been fun. I just really want to help people get into shape and be able to take care of themselves, especially during this time of the pandemic. And no matter where you are, whether you're aspiring to be a competitive runner or cyclist, your health matters. Without your health, you can't do anything. Whether it be just walking around or just doing some push-ups and sit-ups each day, or even eating healthier. That's the key word. I believe you can all work on your health. I'm not a competitive runner like Kinsey and Stephanie, but I also do run for Achilles International, or let's just say I did run before the pandemic hit, but I was never really competitive. I did sign up to do a 5K hot chocolate run just because I wanted hot chocolate at the end.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Lily. And thank you to Kinsey and Stephanie as well. You guys are making me feel really inspired. I am not nearly as awesome in this regard as you guys. I do love to walk and hike and ski and that type of thing, but I am not, lately I have not been taking the best care of my health. So I have some questions for you in regards to that, for all of you. A few things I'd like to ask you, and this is kind of free for all questions, but things that I know I myself am wondering about, but also some of our listeners might also be wondering. So, what do you guys think are some barriers that that might come up with, for a blind or low vision person, for improving their health?
I mean, for me, when I first started running, one of the biggest things, and it happened with Achilles as well. Part of it was I just finished college this June of 2019. So for me, when I started running when I was about 11 or 12, that one of the things I had to learn was it's okay to, look to others for help when it comes to whether you need a guide. When you're looking to step into something new, like for me, it was running, but it may be cycling. It could be, being a yogi. It's okay to ask for guidance in any aspect of life. If you're not able to figure out how to do something, that's perfectly natural. And getting through that initial, layer of trying to find a way to do something, I'm a solutions kind of person. So it was definitely a learning experience trying to figure that out, how to be, able to, adapt to a situation that wasn't exactly meant for me to be a part of, but I knew I wanted to make a part of
Mm-hmm.
my life. So I think that was probably the biggest thing, is getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and being in new situations.
So one barrier that I've noticed, in addition to what Kinsey just said, is a lot of us for cross training, even if we are runners or cyclists, we do some type of weightlifting. So one thing in particular for track cycling, weightlifting is really, really important because it's all about that quick anaerobic sprinting power. So during COVID, because we don't have any cycling competitions, I've been really focusing on powerlifting. And one of the things that I've realized is a barrier, being a blind person trying to work out, is really see the correct form for any kind of exercise. So any exercise you do, whether it's weightlifting, running, cycling, swimming, anything like that, form is so important, because if you don't have the correct form, you're not going to go fast. You might hurt yourself. You're not going to be efficient. So learning how to use proper form is so important. And so for every blind person, they might prefer learning form a different way, but a sighted person can just click on YouTube and watch, right? They can watch professional athletes. They can watch Olympians. For us, we either have to feel someone who's willing to let us feel them, which might be awkward sometimes for us or for them, or we can ask a personal trainer to watch us and maybe give us verbal cues on how to do it, or we can ask coaches. But that's been one barrier, is really learning the correct form without being able to see someone doing the correct form.
That is a really good. Now, you guys mentioned another barrier earlier. I think all of you mentioned it in some form of this. Sighted people don't think that you can do it. They see that you're blind and they don't believe you can do it. So do you guys have any tips on just how to advocate for yourself when, if somebody's in that position? If I go to the gym and I want to take let's say a yoga class or some other class, and my instructor says, I don't think you can be in this class because you're blind. What are some ways you guys have advocated for yourselves?
Okay, so actually, I was going to add the gym aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've done in the past, prior to taking a class, I would find out the contact info to the instructor, and I would let them know ahead of time that I'm blind and that I will need them to be more verbally descriptive. And a lot of times they're not that great still, but they do try. And as far as yoga classes in particular, I've let the instructor know ahead of time that I'm blind, and they actually have been nice enough to come over to my mat and show me the correct form of the posture. So
that's fantastic.
That's been great. As far as the other classes, like I've taken ab classes before, and it's just really fast paced. So you just do what you can, really. The instructor is doing it in front of everybody, and there's this loud music, and it's great. It's exciting and fun, but at the same time, since we can't see what's going on and the instructor isn't being as descriptive, it's hard to follow along. So in that position, I've asked someone that's either next to me what's going on, or I try to bring a friend to that class as well. And I just want to add, the one barrier also is navigating a public gym. I've worked out at various gyms like Planet Fitness, LA Fitness. And when you're just by yourself and others are working out, you can't always hear the machinery because there's just so much background noise. So what I try to do is just have the staff at the gym show me a couple of different machines. And then I'm always walking slow to each machine and using my cane so that hopefully I will hear if someone is on the machine before I get on it. Sometimes I just call the front desk if it's like a small gym, I'll call the front desk and the staff member or someone will help me over to the next group of machines.
To piggyback off of what Lily was saying, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. How she was saying, you not being afraid to ask for help from the staff if you're going to a new gym, and remembering that you're at the end of the day. And I tell my student this as well with his classes. You're paying the gym for a service, so you're entitled to the same opportunities and the same amenities that anyone else is, and your lack of vision shouldn't prohibit you from getting that.
Yes.
So it goes back to that. That's why I love running so much. It allows you to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and knowing that there's no reason to be embarrassed or to be ashamed to say, I need help doing X, Y, Z. I'm paying for this class, and a lot of times folks just, it may not be that they're unwilling to be accommodating. They just may not know how. But when you make the effort and say, this is what I'm able to do. I'm just as able to do X, Y, and Z or A, B, and C as anyone else. And, that definitely helps bridge that divide. But, that's just my 2 cents there.
Now we're talking about gyms, which is good, but right now, a lot of gyms aren't even open. So if somebody, who is in a situation where they can't go to a gym, but they can take classes maybe on Zoom, because there are some, Zoom classes. Lily, you mentioned workout classes over Zoom, and there are quite a few things on YouTube. Have any of you guys tried to take, some of these classes, and how has that been different? Because you can't have someone physically showing you things. So how has that experience been different from taking a class at the gym?
So that has been hard. I did register for one class on Eventbrite. It was a way to really just strengthen those gluteus muscles, aka our butt muscles, and our leg muscles. Lots of squatting and lunging, and of course the music was really fast, and the instructor wasn't describing anything. And that one, I did let the instructor know that I was blind, but I think they just weren't, I don't know, they weren't quick to figure out how to describe their workout. It was very short notice too, because literally the class was posted and then 5 days later the class was going to start. So the best thing I found is typing in on YouTube, descriptive workouts for the blind. There's some cardio workouts on there that are pretty descriptive and very basic, actually. And there's some advanced ones too. Also, another website I would suggest is blindalive.com. There's some MP3s on there that are
cool.
Yeah, that are descriptive workouts and descriptive yoga sessions.
Yes, I've heard of that. Yes.
So in addition to what Lily just said, there's an organization called United States Association of Blind Athletes, for short USABA. And I believe that they have a YouTube channel that has audio described videos. So for blind people searching YouTube to find a video or a person who's making videos that fits their style, it's kind of going to be similar to a sighted person. So, each sighted person prefers their own type of workout, their own type of style of workout. And similarly, some blind people like a lot of description, and some blind people like a little bit of description. So I would suggest, even with that, just doing your own search on YouTube to find your favorite channel or your favorite coaches or personal trainers that do videos that kind of match your level of description that you prefer.
That makes sense. Thank you. So all of you guys are making me feel really inspired to go out and do some workouts. I do have a couple other things I wanted to ask you a little more about the pandemic wise. So do you have any tips, like for someone who maybe has not done a lot of, workouts, who has never really been involved with athletics at all? Do you have like any tips on, maybe just where they could go to get started? I know you guys talked about Blind Alive and YouTube and, but maybe some like sports, or specific activities that might be good just to sort of get started?
I mean, for me, it depends. I feel like it's a case by case situation. In, in terms of what your goals may be, everyone has different. That's what I love about running too, is no one comes from the same starting point and no one's going to end at the same end point. So, you may find that you're happy, walking, you just want to get outside, get some fresh air. You may find, I think all of us on this call kind of epitomize, or on this podcast kind of epitomize the different degrees you can go, which is great. I would just say when you're making those decisions, keep everything in its proper perspective and realize that just because you may not be starting, you may not be cycling for the Paralympic team like Stephanie, you may not be a yogi like Lily, and you may not be running like myself. That doesn't mean that this particular sport isn't for you. It's all about putting everything in its proper place. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely.
Otherwise, you could just do a basic workout where you do some cardio, so some walking in place or jogging or marching, and then do some push-ups, some sit-ups, and maybe some plank position.
Mm-hmm.
And then just do 3 sets of that each day.
Yeah, I love that. I know for me, I've been using Fitbit a lot and challenging people, with step count. So I know that's very basic. But I know it definitely helps to challenge other people, keep me motivated. Stephanie, did you have something to add?
I do. I have a couple of things to add.
Mm-hmm.
So one way to start, if you don't really know where to start, or if you don't even know what sport you like, a lot of us, even if we are competitive at one point, we might have been in a completely different sport and not even have realized, where our talent was until a little bit later on. So that happens to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So, definitely don't be ashamed or feel guilty because you don't know what sport you like or what exercises you enjoy. So one thing that I would really look into is there are a lot of camps for visually impaired and blind people, teaching them how to start with that sport. So for example, since I'm in the cycling and running world, there's a Learn to Race camp for tandem cycling that's run by USABA, and they'll actually fund people to come. They'll give you some grants, so it might cover all of it or partially if you can't afford it. But that camp is literally meant for people who have never raced. So they teach you the basic skills and you get to try it out and see if you like it. There's also something that is called Camp Abilities that I know some blind people have been to, that they teach you a bunch of different sports. Another app that exists is Meetup. And this is totally not just for blind people. This is for all people. And you sign up in your area, and basically it pairs you, like it shows you different groups that you can join. So, there's some hiking groups, there's some religious groups, and you can kind of see what groups are out there. And a lot of the athletic groups, they'll have people who do pretty intensive athletics, but then there's also some that will say, beginner or just walking group. So that's especially helpful for people who live in more city or urban areas. But it's a really cool app and a lot of people use it. So I highly recommend Meetup. I knew many people in Nashville and Colorado that use it. So it's not something where, you don't know if you should trust it or not, because you don't know if there's weirdos. I mean, of course, use your judgment. There's weirdos no matter where you go. But Meetup is a really great app that I've heard a lot of good reviews. And I actually have joined a couple of groups and had a really great experience and actually met some great people. And then my last recommendation kind of goes off of what you just said, Rachel. So apps have been super motivational for a lot of people during this time, including myself. So when I moved from Nashville to Colorado, I still wanted to work out with my friends that I worked out with at Achilles in Nashville. But I knew that was kind of impossible, being miles and miles and states away. But there's a couple apps, Strava, there's Training Peaks,
Runtastic.
Yeah, there's Fitbit, there's
Mhm.
all different. I mean, there's tons. I mean, there's the Nike one, there's Map My Run, there's absolutely
Yeah.
like a lot of them. You can kind of test them out and see which ones are accessible for you. Strava has been one that's very accessible for blind people that I really like. And you can add each other as friends,
Mhm.
and you can plan to do a workout at the same time or in the same day, and you guys can see each other's statistics. So even though it's not the same as working
Yes.
out with each other, you can kind of keep each other motivated or get each other started, right? So instead of waking up and being like, oh man, I gotta go for a run,
Yeah.
you actually have your friend that could be states away that says, all right, come on, let's go for a run. I'm going for a run. And it kind of keeps you accountable, even though you might not be in person. And that's a really great way for socially distancing, to still be able to do your workout. And on those apps, a lot of times you can do indoor workouts. So if you can't get outside, if you are afraid of being guided by someone during this pandemic because you're not able to be 6 feet apart, you can, if you have an apartment gym or if you have a treadmill at your house, a lot of those apps will track your statistics, even if it's an indoor workout, if it's an indoor spin bike or treadmill, or even if you're just walking around your apartment, it will keep track of those steps. So those are just some other ideas.
Those are great ideas. And that was actually you guys all just kind of answered my next question, which was how to stay motivated during a pandemic, to work out. So excellent. I have a couple more questions for you guys. Thank you guys so much for all your input. This is fantastic. So I wanted to talk a little more about diet. And I wanted to ask you guys what your thoughts on resources that we can look for to help us know sort of what the best diet is for each of us. I know it's not the same for everyone, but what are your insights on diet?
Right. Well, I think what's important is like, in order to be physically fit, like people need to eat food, right? Like whatever that food is that fuels you, like that's so important. And as long as you're getting protein and carbs, like every body needs a different amount of protein and carbs. So no one can tell you, oh, eat this amount of carbs, eat this amount of protein, because everybody's completely different. Yeah. And in all honesty, a lot of times, like when you're really getting into weightlifting and all that kind of stuff, like eating more food is like so important. Like, so I think in society we have, this idea of being stick skinny is the way to go, right? But I think all of us have our own body shapes and we should all be proud of those. And no matter what sport we decide to do, we can make, our bodies thrive in whatever sport that is, and with whatever food we like and works for us.
Make your body thrive. I like that. Yeah.
To like the food thing, what I was gonna say, I'm not sure this would be like, on point or not, but I was gonna say when it comes to eating, make sure you're eating for yourself and not for, aesthetics of other people, I think that's what a lot of people say. But make sure you're doing it, with your goals in mind. And, you are what you eat, obviously, but at the end of the day, physical health begets mental health. So if you're not, on point mentally, that just messes everything else up from a health standpoint. If you're doing just one piece of the puzzle, you could be lacking in other areas, but that's just mine.
So, as you work out, as you figure out your sport, you can, like I said, ask for tips from different coaches and stuff. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how you feel. So, one athlete might love to eat like a big peanut butter sandwich before they go for a run, right? Like they might need lots of that fuel. Might prefer to just eat a banana, right? And neither of them are wrong. It's just whatever creates that fuel for your body to thrive in whatever sport you're doing or exercise you're doing.
Yes.
I would also like to add a couple immune boosting tips, since we're talking about diet here, especially that we are in the pandemic. I would highly recommend adding a lot of vitamin C to your diet. You can get your vitamin C from all kinds of different fruits, like citrus fruits such as oranges, tangerines, even pineapple has a lot of vitamin C in it. Lemon, you can add lemon to your water. Yeah, so vitamin C is a good thing. And then also adding different nuts to your diet has different healthy fats that'll help your immune system. Omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids in there. So that's really important. Or fish. Of course, there's a lot of people that don't like fish. So leafy greens or nuts and seeds would be a good substitute for that. And another immune boosting tip that has nothing to do with diet is make sure you're getting plenty of sleep. So a sufficient amount of sleep for an adult is 7 to 8 hours a night.
All right. So I have one last question for you guys, and I wanted to talk a little bit about recovery. So how important is it? How important is recovery, and how does that help us maintain our health?
Sure. Well, I'll speak from a place of, I've done, distance running. I've done short running. I've run as a beginner, and I like to think I run a pretty good amount now. And I think the biggest thing for recovery is knowing when your body is telling you it's time to take a rest, knowing how to listen to your body when it's telling you it's had enough. Because I think that's one of the biggest things that happens to a lot of runners, and that's how a lot of us get injured. And I'm sure that occurs, in cycling and in any area of fitness and practice is, you don't know when to pull it back. And a lot of times rest is the best way for you to move forward. I'm a competitive person. I like to go out and, do my best in any run that I do. But, if my body's telling me, hey, listen, you've had enough for now. There's nothing wrong. There's no shame in knowing your own limit, and knowing when it's time to pull it back for your own physical and mental health, because it's exhausting. It's tiring to be injured constantly. So
Lily, I know you have some insights because you are a massage therapist. What are your thoughts on recovery?
Massage therapist. Well, there's a thing called sports massage, which we see all types of athletes, from stress on their Achilles tendon to different calf muscles being tight, and shoulder pain and all kinds of muscle pain. So I would say if you're really going to get into sports and become competitive, I would suggest at least a massage once a month. Now, I know massages are pretty expensive, but a lot of places have different deals and packages that you can sign up for and purchase. If not once a month, then at least treat yourself to a couple times a year. So there's all kinds of different sports massage. We have pre-event sports massage, where we massage people so that their muscles are nice and loose and ready to play the sport. Or we have post-event massage, where it's more recovery, where we're massaging whatever, depends on the person's pain level. We will do different techniques to help their pain and be able to help them relax and be able to heal more quickly. Because one thing is, we want to get as much circulation of blood to the injured area. That promotes faster healing. So we concentrate on just taking care of those areas that they're having that pain in that day. And then we work with them to either have massage a couple times a month, or depending on what they're looking for, we work with them. I would also encourage stretching before any type of sporting event, or even before working out in general. Like, even if you're just doing a quick workout at home, just doing some stretching really helps. And then also stretching after the workout really helps as well. So, how you can find a good massage therapist? Usually word of mouth is a good idea. I would go there first. If you know of anyone, just ask around. The next thing I would suggest is going to Groupon, and you can look at people's reviews on there, whether or not some massage therapists are good or not at what they do. So just type in sports massage on the website called Groupon.com. Just type in either sports massage, or if you're just looking for a regular massage, just put in the search terms massage in general, and you should get a whole variety of different, different types of massage, because there's sports and just spa, types.
That's awesome.
All right. Can I add some thoughts about massage?
Yes.
Awesome.
Please.
Okay. So Lily has awesome ideas, and I think massage is a really important aspect of recovery. But during the pandemic, some of us don't want to go for a massage, even if it's offered in our area, just because, social distancing and germs. And also massages are expensive, like we talked about, and Lily had a great idea of going on to Groupon. But there are some things that we can do at home for those of us that don't want to go out because we don't feel comfortable in general with the idea of a massage, or maybe we just don't feel comfortable because of the pandemic, or maybe it's too expensive. So some simple tips that we can do at home is using a foam roller. You can get a foam roller for a really cheap price. You could even probably make your own. You could also just get a tennis ball, and you can roll different muscles. That's really, really important to loosen those muscles up. Like Lily said, stretching is also super helpful.
Can you describe what you mean by roll different muscles?
Yeah. So basically, and you can do it in different ways, and it depends which muscle group you're trying to get at. But if you're trying to get your back or your glutes or your legs, a simple way of doing it is laying or sitting on the floor and really just sitting on the foam roller or the ball and letting either rolling your body away and closer to move it, or, if you're trying to get the front of your quads, you can lay on your stomach and do it that way and kind of roll and push your body, or you can sit down or lay down and, just kind of rub it with pressure along those muscle groups. So there's lots of different ways that you can do it. There's also different recovery boots that you can put on, and it's like this air system, and I don't know the engineering terms for it, but basically what it does is it pumps air in and out. So it tightens these boots up really tight, and then it lets out the air and loosens them. So that's another way. Some of those are really expensive, but you could also get ones.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but you can also get some that are cheaper. There are some massage parlors or massage therapists that have them themselves. So that's something that you can use at home. And another simple thing is either doing an ice bath or doing a hot bath with Epsom salts. So, for different exercises, if it's an injury or if it's just sore muscles, some people prefer the ice bath. Some people prefer the heat. Some people prefer going back and forth. So that's something that you can definitely do on your own at home. You don't need to go anywhere. And then, as we said earlier, a big part of recovery is rest and getting lots of protein.
Yes, those are really, really good advice. So does anyone have any parting thoughts? You guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your awesome expertise. I am feeling super motivated right now. And does anyone have any parting thoughts for our listeners?
I mean, as I mentioned earlier, it's not about where you start with running. As I mentioned in my story about running, it's not about where you start. To me, running has been kind of a microcosm of, my life, where you face adversity through the course of the run. You find ways to overcome it. That's just kind of how running has been for me. So if I were to, give some advice in that standpoint, I wouldn't let, something like having a lack of vision prohibit you from doing, whether it be running, cycling, walking, whatever it is you'd want to do. And that's not just fitness wise, but in your professional growth and in life in general. I wouldn't let it prohibit you from doing, what it is you love to do.
Yeah.
All right. So going off of what Kinsey just said, I think it's important because a lot of us, watch sports games on the TV, watch athletes on the TV, hear about Olympians, watch, Netflix documentaries on all these amazing athletes. And, that's great. And if those are your goals and those are your talents, absolutely go for it. But I think the important thing is, success isn't perfection. We don't need to be perfect. None of us are perfect. Success is, staying determined and not giving up and just achieving your goal, whatever that goal is.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Success isn't perfection. That's great. Lily, anything you'd like to share?
So I would like to add another thing is comparing yourself. Don't compare yourself to other athletes. It can get really mentally draining. That's something that I have done in the past and didn't get me anywhere. So just concentrate on your own goals and what you're striving for, and you'll get there. Definitely put your mind to it. I mean, I started running with Achilles before COVID hit, and at first I really didn't like running, and then I worked up to liking running. I don't love running, but definitely like it, and do something exciting to reward yourself. Like, I was going to do that 5K with hot chocolate, and I was like, yeah, at the finish line, I'm going to get hot chocolate. That's my goal. And to say that I did a 5K. And so definitely find little ways to reward yourself as well. And you can do it. Don't give up.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie and Kinsey and Lily. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys are feeling motivated to go out and work out. But before you go do that, I would just like to thank Learning Ally staff for supporting the podcast and our funders and stakeholders for supporting all that we do. The co-hosts of College Knowledge are Brian Duarte, Rachel Greider, and Rashad Jones. Our program director is Mary Alexander. Our podcast writer is Kristen Waitaki. Abigail Shaw produced the audio of the show, and Rachel Greider composed our theme song. Finally, our social media and marketing manager is Katie Otanjo. And I am Rachel Greider, and this is College Knowledge.